Welcome back everyone in the second part of the lecture video of the topic reactions of aldehydes and ketones. In this video, we will talk about the oxidation reaction and the reduction of the aldehydes and ketones. Let's begin. First, oxidation by K2Cr2O7. So aldehydes differ from ketone in their oxidation reactions. Okay, just keep this line in your mind that aldehydes differ from ketones in oxidation reactions. So aldehydes can be easily oxidized to carboxylic acids bearing same number of carbon atoms as the aldehyde. On treatment with common oxidizing agents like nitric acid, KMNO4, K2Cl, K2Cr2O7, etc. Okay. Now, if we see that here, this one is aldehyde containing an R group and a carbon atom. So it is further oxidized to carboxylic acid containing the same R group and the same carbon atom. So in aldehyde, while oxidation, the carboxylic acid thus formed bears the same number of carbon atoms. Okay, as for example, you can see ethanol undergo oxidation reactions. Okay, just with these oxidizing agents like nitric acid, potassium permanganate or potassium dichromate, etc. And we are getting ethanoic acid as the corresponding carboxylic acid. So if we count here this carbon in ethanol, the total number of carbon atoms are the total number of carbon atom is 2, and if we consider in ethanoic acid, we will see that it bears the same number of carbon atoms as to its corresponding aldehyde, that is ethanol. Okay, now moving on to ketones. So ketones are not easily oxidized, as the first line says that aldehydes and ketones differ in their oxidation reactions. Okay, so aldehydes are easily oxidized with common oxidizing agents, whereas ketones are not easily oxidized. Okay, however, under drastic conditions, that is with powerful oxidizing agents. Okay, in aldehyde we were using common oxidizing agents, mild oxidizing agents. Okay, but in ketones we have to use drastic conditions along with powerful oxidizing agents such as concentrated nitric acid, KMNO4 in presence of sulfuric acid, or potassium dichromate in presence of sulfuric acid at an elevated temperatures. Okay, so the drastic condition is we have to use these powerful oxidizing agents at an elevated temperature. Okay, high temperature reaction. So what happens is that ketones undergoes cleavage of CC bond, giving a mixture of carbonyl acids having lesser number of carbon atoms. See, in aldehydes we were getting carboxylic acids. Okay, yes. In aldehydes, okay, in aldehydes we were getting carboxylic acids bearing same number of carbon atoms, whereas in ketones we are getting a cleavage of CC bond, which leads to a mixture of carboxylic acids having lesser number of carbon atoms than the original ketone. Okay, you can see here that in this one, okay, this is a ketone, it undergoes oxidation. Now cleavage of carbon carbon bond. So where this cleavage occurs, this cleavage occurs between the carbon atom of the carbonyl group and the alpha carbon atom. Okay, see here, these are the two alpha carbon atoms of this carbonyl group. Okay, so cleavage may occur from this side or it may occur from this side. So If we look into this example, we can see here that first one, okay, by cleavage of C1C2 bond, that means this first carbon, this alpha carbon, left hand side alpha carbon of the carbonyl group, okay, so cleavage is occurring between the carbonyl group and the alpha left hand side alpha carbon of the carbonyl group. So this cleavage is occurring, and then we are getting 2 carboxylic acid, that is a mixture of carboxylic acid. See here, RCH2, okay, this one, this carboxylic acid, sorry, this part is further oxidized into this carboxylic acid. Let me clear all the markers first. Okay, so this part is oxidized into this carboxylic acid, and the rest other is oxidized into this carboxylic acid. Okay, so here you can see that left hand side alpha carbon cleavage occurs. Okay, cleavage between the carbonyl group and the left hand side alpha carbon. Okay, so now what happens if right hand side, if the cleavage occurs between the right hand side alpha carbon and the carbonyl group. So if we cleave this bond, so we will end up with this fragment as this carboxylic acid, and this fragment as this one. Okay, so here right hand side alpha carbon at the carbonyl group cleavage occurs. Okay, so now how will you decide which side will cleavage occurs? That is the left hand side, that is between the carbonyl group and the left hand side alpha carbon, or between the carbonyl group and the right hand side carbonyl, or between the carbonyl group and the right hand side alpha carbon. Okay, so that is governed by Puffer's rule. Okay, by this rule. So in case of unsymmetrical ketones, note here, unsymmetrical ketones, okay, if symmetrical ketones, then you can cleave the you can cleave the carbonyl, you can cleave the carbon carbon bond between the alpha carbon and the carbonyl group in either side, because it is symmetrical. So for symmetrical ketone you need not have to worry, but for unsymmetrical ketone there is a rule which governs the cleavage. Okay, so this is the rule which states that in case of unsymmetrical ketones, the cleavage occurs in which the keto group stays preferentially with a smaller alkyl group. Okay, that means suppose we look into this example. Okay, this example first. So this one is 1 2 3 4 5, that is pentane 2-on. Okay, so first we will look in the cleavage A. Okay, so here we can see that in this portion the keto group, that is the carbonyl group, is along with the smaller alkyl group. Okay, and the rest bigger alkyl group is left over. So what we get is, from this fragment we get propanoic acid, and from this fragment we get ethanoic acid. Okay, and if you look into the cleavage B here, okay, now this keto group is along with the bigger alkyl group, and the rest is that methyl group is left over alone. Okay, now this portion is being oxidized to butanoic acid, and the methyl group is oxidized to methanoic acid. Okay, so according to the rule, the keto group stays preferentially with the smaller alkyl group. That means if we see here, so between, if we look into pentane 2 1, okay, one, so this is pentane 2 1. So if we divide this pentane 2 1 into two alkyl groups, we will get this side, left hand side as propyl group and right hand side as methyl group. So the keto group should be with the smaller alkyl group, that is keto group should be along with the methyl group. That means we have to cleave between the carbonyl group and the larger alkyl group, that is the cleavage A. Okay, and this will give us the major product. Okay, if we do the reverse, we will get minor products. Okay, so always remember that for unsymmetrical ketones, the keto group must remain with the smaller alkyl group. In this case it is the methyl group. Okay, so now moving on to oxidation by selenium oxide. So ketones or aldehyde on oxidation with selenium oxide gives dicarbonyl compounds. Okay, in this method you will get dicarbonyl compounds. This reaction is possible only in compounds containing alpha carbon atom. So there is a catch that the compounds undergoing this reaction should contain a alpha carbon. Okay, if you see benzaldehyde, suppose, okay, this one is benzaldehyde. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Suppose this is benzene ring, this one is benzaldehyde. Okay, this contains an alpha carbon, but that alpha carbon must contain a CH2 group. Okay, here you see that this benzaldehyde will not undergo this reaction because although it contains a alpha carbon, but that alpha carbon must be a CH2 group. Okay, must contain a CH2 group, that alpha carbon. Okay, this alpha carbon must contain a CH2 group. So you can see here that formaldehyde, it does not contain any alpha carbon, so it will not undergo this reaction. Similarly benzaldehyde, although it contains a alpha carbon, but it does not contains the CH2 group in the alpha carbon. Okay, so in this examples you can see here that acetaldehyde, okay, CH3CHO, this is the alpha carbon. Okay, it undergoes oxidation reaction with selenium oxide to give glyoxal. Okay, so you see here that this CH3 group, that is the alpha CH3 group, is being converted to aldehyde here. Okay, means that this CH2 is being converted to CO. Okay, CO group, CH2 is being converted to CO group. So the alpha carbon must contain a CH2 group. If it fails to deliver a CH2 group, then that compound will not undergo this oxidation reaction. Okay, for example you can see here that acetone, the alpha carbon, that is CH3 group. CH3 means it contains a CH2 group along with one extra hydrogen atom. Okay, so this alpha carbon undergoes this reaction to give us this carbonyl group. See here, this is a symmetrical ketone. Acetone is symmetrical ketone. So whichever side you may oxidize, you will end up with the same product. Okay, since it is this acetone is a symmetrical ketone. Okay, So CH3 group, alpha CH3 group contains CH2 and hydrogen. So because of this CH2 group, it is being converted to carbonyl group, this carbonyl group, okay, and thus the compound undergoes this oxidation reaction. Now, through oxidation reaction, you can distinguish between aldehydes and ketones. Okay, so aldehydes readily oxidizes not only by strong oxidizing agents like KMNO4, K2Cr2O7, etc., but also by weak oxidizing agents like Tollens reagent, Fehling solution, Benedict solution, etc. Okay, so these are your practical tests. Okay, while determining the compound, means identifying the compound, whether it is whether your compound contains an aldehydic group or a ketonic group. So in lab you will be doing these reactions. Okay, Tollens reagent reaction, then Fehling solution, Benedict solution. This, using these reagents, you will be distinguishing between aldehydes and ketones in your practical life in the lab. Okay, so unlike aldehydes, ketones do not oxidize by these reagents. So these reagents, that is Tollens, Fehling's and Benedict solution, only oxidizes aldehydes. Okay, it does not oxidizes ketones. Okay, so first we move on to Tollens reagent. It is ammoniacal solution of AgNO3. Formula is this. Okay, you have to remember this formula. So here you can see that this is a coordination compound. Okay, silver is coordinated to two ammonia molecules, and out of this coordination pair you are getting hydroxy as the counter ions. Okay, so silver is coordinated to two ammonia ions bearing a positive charge. Silver here bearing a positive charge, and it is counterbalanced by hydroxy ions. Okay, so we will see how is it prepared. It is prepared by adding sodium hydroxide solution to silver nitrate. Okay, till the precipitate of silver dioxide forms just get dissolved. Okay, so you see here that first we take silver nitrate solution. Okay, and there we add ammonium hydroxide. So first, in a test tube you take silver nitrate solution. Okay, and then to it add sodium hydroxide. So you will get first the precipitate of silver oxide. Okay, then after getting a precipitate of silver oxide, you will further continue the addition of sodium hydroxide. See here that the silver oxide precipitate, okay, is further, the silver oxide precipitate is further being treated with ammonium hydroxide. Okay, then what will happen is that the precipitate which was formed beforehand will now get dissolved in the solution, and you will get a colorless solution. That means you will get your desired Tollens reagent, that is uh, this one, that is ammoniacal silver nitrate solution you will get. Okay, now in the test tube you have your Tollens reagent. Okay, you will add your aldehyde to that test tube. Okay, containing the Tollens reagent, drop by drop. Okay, when you add aldehyde, you add just few drops of aldehyde. Okay, and you warm that one. In your test tube you are having Tollens reagent, you just add few drops of aldehyde and warm that test tube. Okay, so what will happen is that a bright silver mirror is formed on the inner side of the test tube due to the reduction of silver ions to metallic silver. Okay, the aldehydes are oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion. So here see that this aldehyde is oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion, and this Tollens reagent, that is the silver here is in +1 oxidation state, Ag +1, and this one is reduced to Ag, that is silver 0, that is Ag0. Okay, so here you can see that a redox reaction is being sorry, a redox reaction is taking place here. Okay, this aldehyde is oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion, and this Tollens reagent is being reduced to metallic silver. Okay, and because of this metallic silver, we know that metals have a lustrous property, and silver is the best of all. So due to this metallic silver, a mirror is formed, and we know in our normal household items the silver, that is nothing but that is the mirror is nothing but a silver which is coated with a paint. First, in a glass a silver is coated, and to protect the silver from corrosion or from any degradation, the silver is being coated with a paint. You can see in back side of the mirror some uh, that is brownish red or red color paint is there. Okay, that is just to protect the silver. Okay, so because of this silver, so you can see here in this diagram, sorry, in this picture, that this is a test tube, and in the walls of the test tube, that the inner walls of the test tube, a silver mirror is formed. Okay, and this is due to the reduction of silver 1 ions to metallic silver. Okay, so you see here that you first take Tollens reagent, then you add few drops of aldehyde and you heat it in the water bath. Okay, so this is the water bath. You will not directly heat it in the Bunsen burner, you have to heat it in water bath. Okay, you are just heating it. So first, this is your Tollens reagent plus aldehyde. So after heating for a few minutes, 1 or 2, you will get this kind of solution, that is black brown precipitate will start to form, which will later turn to this metallic silver, this metallic luster you will get on further heating. So if you continue this heating, this is the first stage of the reaction. If we starts to heat, this is the first stage, then it will proceed through this, that is the second stage. Brownish or blackish type PPT will form here, and that will further give us the silver mirror, that is the final stage, that is the third stage. So these are the stages while doing the reaction. Okay, you just heat it. First you will heat, first the solution is colorless, then it will turn into, after heating for some time, it will turn into black or brown, something like that, and finally you will get your product. Okay, so that is your, this one is your practical observation. Okay, so now unsaturated aldehydes are oxidized by Tollens reagent to unsaturated acid. So you can see here that this one is the unsaturated aldehyde. Okay, so it is undergoing oxidation reaction to give us the unsaturated corresponding carboxylate and anion. Okay, so you can see here that this double bond is not being affected in the final product, that is the unsaturated part remains intact, only the aldehydic part is being converted to carboxylate anion, that is the corresponding acid ion. Okay, this reaction is also known as silver mirror test. So as you can see here that you are getting a mirror which is made up of silver, so that is it is a silver mirror test. Okay, because of this silver, uh, because of the silver, the inner walls of the test tube is looks like a mirror. Okay, so that is why it is silver mirror test. The silver mirror forms inside indicates the presence of aldehydic group. Okay, ketones do not give this test due to the absence of reducing hydrogen atom. So what is this one? This absence of reducing hydrogen atom, it means that uh, you can see here. Okay, this aldehydic group contains a hydrogen atom, whereas in ketone you see the carbonyl group does not contains a hydrogen atom. So due to this absence of hydrogen atom, that is reducing hydrogen atoms, ketones do not give this test. So if you take ketone, suppose acetone, and if you perform this Tollens reagent test or silver mirror test, you will get a negative result. Okay, you will get a negative result. Whereas if you take any aldehyde, because of the presence of this reducing hydrogen atom in the aldehydic group, that is, if you consider this one here, this hydrogen in the aldehydic group is the reducing hydrogen. Okay, this reducing hydrogen atom is this hydrogen atom. So because of this reducing hydrogen atom, aldehyde gives a positive silver mirror test. Okay, now moving on to Fehling solution. So Fehling solution contains copper 2 ions. So this one contains copper 2 ions complexed with sodium potassium tartarate. So what is this sodium potassium tartarate? Okay, so if you can see here, this one is the tartaric acid. Okay, you can see in this one, this tartaric acid contains two carboxyl group and two hydroxy group. Okay, so if you want to make any salt, okay, so you can take protons from this carbonyl group, that is this carboxyl group, or this hydroxy group. Okay, hydrogen atoms. You just replace hydrogen atoms with any alkali metals, then you will get salt. But if you consider the acidity of carboxyl group compared to the hydroxy group, this the proton leaving tendency of carboxyl group versus hydroxyl group, then the proton leaving tendency of carboxyl group is much more than hydroxy group. So if you want to remove the protons to make salt, so you have to always remove it from the carboxyl group. Okay, so remove one proton. See here, what is it is given? Sodium potassium tartarate. So that means one sodium cation, one potassium cation. So remove hydrogen with one sodium cation and this hydrogen with one potassium cation. Okay, then you will get your sodium potassium tartarate. You just remove two protons from tartaric acid with one sodium ion and one potassium ion, and you will get this sodium potassium tartarate, also known as Rockell salt. Okay, so this Fehling solution comprises of two solutions. That is, first one is Fehling solution A and the second one is Fehling solution B. So Fehling solution A is an aqueous solution of copper sulfate. So you can see here that Fehling solution A and Fehling solution B. So Fehling solution A is an aqueous solution of copper sulfate. So copper sulfate solution checked. And Fehling solution B is alkaline solution of sodium potassium tartarate. Okay, so this salt, the alkaline solution of this sodium potassium tartarate of this salt. Okay, that is the Fehling solution B, that is alkaline solution of sodium potassium tartarate. Okay, so these two solutions, that is Fehling solution A and Fehling solution B, both are mixed in equal amounts. This is mandatory. Okay, you have to mix both in equal amounts before the test. So what reaction is going on there is that copper sulfate solution reacts with sodium hydroxide. Okay, since alkaline solution, okay, so the alkali present in Fehling solution B first will react with this copper sulfate solution, that is here sodium hydroxide. So copper sulfate reacts with sodium hydroxide to give copper hydroxide. Okay, then you have to heat this one. So the copper's hydroxide thus formed is heated to give you copper oxide. Okay, also this copper hydroxide will react with the potassium tartarate, sodium potassium tartarate salt to give you a deep blue color complex, that is the filling solutions. Okay, that means that in your reaction mixture three things are present. Okay, copper sulfate, then one alkali, and then sodium potassium tartarate. So first you will mix these two solution and then you have to heat it. Okay, after heating you will get a deep blue color complex. Okay, so now how this reaction is going on. First, copper sulfate will react with sodium hydroxide, alkali metal, alkali present in your solution to give you copper hydroxide. Now, you have copper hydroxide and still you are heating. So now in your solution, what are present? Copper hydroxide and sodium potassium tartrate. Okay, so while heating, few molecules of sodium potassium tartrate will react with copper hydroxide to give you deep blue color complex, and few molecules of copper hydroxide will give you copper oxide. Okay, you are getting here. What is happening is that all of a sudden copper hydroxide will not be converted to deep blue color complex. Okay, this complex filling solution complex. Okay, some will react with sodium potassium tartrate to give you this complex, and some will be giving you copper oxide. Okay, some will use water molecule to give you copper oxide. So now this deep blue color complex and this copper oxide undergoes redox reaction with aldehyde. In redox reaction, what happens is that redox reaction is the reaction of electrons. Means here in redox reaction, oxidation and reduction both takes place. And how is it taking place? Via electrons. So some will lose electrons, some will gain electrons. So here also this deep blue color complex will lose electron, this copper oxide will also lose electron. Sorry, my mistake. uh, this aldehyde will lose electron, whereas this deep blue color complex, that is filling solution, will will take electron. Okay, copper oxide will also take electron. Okay, what is oxidation? Oxidation is losing of electrons, while reduction is gaining of electrons. So here you can see that in this reaction, deep blue color complex, you give this one aldehyde, and you are getting a red precipitate of Cu2O, that is cuprous oxide. See here, when an aldehyde is heated with filling solution, a reddish brown precipitate of cuprous oxide is formed due to the reduction of complex copper 2 to copper 1. Aldehydes are oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion. Okay, fine. So you can see here that this aldehyde, this is the balanced reaction. Okay, it may come in your entrance exam also. What is the balanced reaction? So you have to remember the stoichiometry coefficients here. Okay, so this aldehyde is being oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion. Okay, and here the copper is copper complex, or this copper oxide, or this copper complex is being reduced to cuprous oxide. That is, in this copper complex, you see here that copper is in +2 oxidation state. This oxygen, due to this oxygen -1, and due to this oxygen -2. So the anions in this copper complex, okay, if you consider this one, okay, this portion of a copper complex, because of oxygen this -1 and this minus 1. So to counterbalance, this copper must be in +2 oxidation state. Okay, and if you see in this copper oxide, okay, you see in this copper oxide, oxygen always -2. So copper, this one has to be +2. Okay, so +2 copper is being reduced to copper 1. How is it? CuO Cu. Okay, so this oxygen is always -2, this one is +1, and this copper is +1. So see here, copper is being reduced to +1 oxidation state from +2 oxidation state, that is reduction taking place in copper complex. Okay, so this aldehyde will lose electron and this copper will gain electron. So aldehyde lose electron, it is oxidized. Copper gains electron, it is reduced. Okay, so complexing the copper to ions with tartrate ions prevents the precipitation of copper to hydroxide. Okay, now here one thing is there, that you should be wondering that if copper oxide also participates in the reaction, then why we are using this sodium potassium tartrate? It is because of this tartrate ions prevents precipitation of copper to hydroxide. Okay, this one, copper to hydroxide precipitates out. So if in solution copper hydroxide is not present, then we will get a very less amount of copper plus 2 ions. Okay, so to get more of this copper plus 2 ions, we are using tartarate, so that it will form complex with the this copper hydroxide and give us this blue color complex, and thus increases the concentration of copper plus 2 ions. This one the first, and second one is that, see here, this one was the deep blue color complex. Okay, after heating we are getting red brown precipitate. So it also acts as an kind of an indicator. It is not actually an indicator, but kind of an indicator. You can see the color change from deep blue color complex to red brown precipitate. Okay, so now you see that benzaldehyde here, benzaldehyde. Okay, benzaldehyde and their aromatic derivatives do not give this failing solution test. Okay, because aromatic aldehydes are not good reducing agents. Okay, these aromatic aldehydes are not good reducing agents. It gives tolerance reagent due to more oxidizing nature of silver oxide than copper oxide. Silver contains higher reduction potential than copper in electrochemical series. So if you see here that benzaldehyde and their aromatic derivatives, why are not they giving this failing solution test? Because they are not good reducing agents. And in the tolerance reagent test, it is not by the nature of these aldehydes, it is also by the nature of the oxidizing agents. Okay, in tolerance reagent test, we were getting silver oxide. You can see here that this is the tolerance reagent test. This silver oxide and plus this tolerance reagent both take place in the reaction, means both loses electron to give, sorry, both uh, gains electron and reduce to this silver mirror, and thus aldehyde gets oxidized. So if you can see here, in electrochemical series, silver contains higher reduction potential than copper. Higher reduction potential means that it has higher reducing properties. That means it will be highly reduced. Okay, That means if you take silver and if you take copper, okay, reduction potential of silver is higher than copper. That means silver has a higher tendency to be reduced to silver 0, from silver plus 1 to silver 0, whereas copper has a less tendency than silver. That means higher the reduction potential, then that will undergo reduction reaction fast. Okay, so since copper has a less tendency, means less reduction potential, so it has a lesser tendency to be reduced. Okay, you are following what I am telling? That silver 1, it will be reduced to silver, and copper 2, it will be reduced to copper 1. Okay, so now silver has higher reduction potential, so this reaction, okay, will be in higher extent compared to this reaction. Okay, because reduction potential is high. If reduction potential is high, silver will be highly reduced to silver 0 by gaining electrons. Okay, and from where these electrons are coming? These electrons are coming from the aldehyde. So aldehyde will have a greater chance of getting oxidized in case of silver than in case of copper. Okay, so these aromatic aldehydes give tolerance reagent due to more oxidizing nature of silver than copper. I hope you understood this one. If you are having problem, then please mention it in the comment below. Okay, so now ketones, they also do not give this test. Okay, so tolerance reagent test and Fellings, Benedict's, etc. are not given by ketones. Because why ketones do not give? I'll come to later. I will come. So you can see here there's this reaction. This one is benzaldehyde in presence of silver oxide, that is Tollens reagent. Tollens reagent, you can depict this one as silver oxide also, because this one is also taking part in the reaction along with the Tollens reagent. You are getting benzoic acid. But if you give Felling reagent, copper oxide, you can also depict it as CuO, because copper oxide is also taking part along with the Felling solution. Okay, so benzaldehyde, if you treat it with copper oxide, then no reaction. Okay, so because of this reason, so ketones do not give this test. Why ketones do not give? Why do ketones not give tolerance test and Felling test? Okay, see here, same reason why ketones do not give tolerance test. This is the same reason. All aldehydes have a hydrogen atom attached to the carbonyl group. Okay, hydrogen atom attached to the carbonyl group. Due to the presence of hydrogen atom, aldehydes are easily oxidized by even weak oxidizing agents like silver plus and copper 2 plus. Okay, silver plus and copper 2 plus. On the other hand, ketones do not have any hydrogen atom attached to the carbonyl group. In ketone, oxidation involves the cleavage of CC bond. Consequently, can only be oxidized by strong oxidizing agents. Okay, in ketones we have to use strong oxidizing agents and drastic conditions which will lead to cleavage of the carbon-carbon single bond. Okay, aldehydes have hydrogen atom. Ketone do not contain reducing hydrogen atom, so ketone will not give this tolerance test or this Felling test. Okay. Now Benedict's solution. So Benedict solutions and Felling solution contains the same ion, that is the copper plus 2 ion. Here the principle is same, that is copper plus 2 ions will get reduced to copper plus 1 ions. The exception is that in Benedict solution we are using different molecules to complex with copper 2 ion. Okay, so you see here that Benedict solution contains copper 2 ions complexed with citrate ion, okay, in sodium carbonate solution. Again, complexing the copper 2 ions prevents the formation of a precipitate. This time it is copper 2 carbonate. Okay, previously it was copper hydroxide, but here it is now copper 2 carbonate. So complexation prevents the formation of the precipitate, that is copper 2 carbonate. This is an alkaline solution of cupric, that is Cu2 ion complexed with citrate ions. Similar chemical reaction and cupric oxide is present here. Okay. Similar chemical reactions means, as compared with, if you see here the reactions, okay, it is similar to that of Fellings, okay, and cupric oxide here is also present. Okay, same CuO, cupric oxide. Okay, this cupric oxide is CuO. Okay, same is present here. So you can see here that this is also divided into two parts, part A and part B. Part B contains copper sulfate and part A contains alkaline solution of potassium or sodium citrate. Okay, alkaline solution. And here, what is this alkaline solution? This is sodium carbonate, that is Na2CO3. This one is the alkali used here, and previous one it was sodium hydroxide. Okay, so see here, this is your sodium citrate. You just replace all these sodium ions, okay, these sodium ions of the carboxylate anion with hydrogen, okay, then you will get citric acid. So from citric acid you are getting sodium citrate. Okay, so see here now, copper sulfate solution, here they are giving NaOH, actually it should be Na2CO3. Okay, since here it is mentioned here that citrates ions in sodium carbonate solution. Okay, it should be sodium carbonate. Okay, so you are getting copper hydroxide. This copper hydroxide will leave one molecule of water and you will get this complex blue colored, similar to this one. Okay, similar to, you just see here how they are removing water molecules. Okay, you just see here how they are removing water molecules. Okay, similarly you have to remove your water molecules from here. Okay, this one here, copper hydroxide, OH, OH. You take oxygen from this complex and this to water. So what you will get is this complex, blue color complex. Okay, and similar reaction is also taking place. This copper hydroxide, you heat it, you will get cupric oxide and water. Okay, then deep blue color, this complex along with cupric oxide, you give aldehyde, you will get red precipitate of cuprous oxide. Okay, and the aldehyde will be oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion. Okay, see here it reacts with aldehydes to form red precipitate of cuprous oxide. Aldehydes reduce the copper 2 ion to copper 1 oxide and gets oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion. Okay, it cannot react with benzaldehyde and its aromatic derivatives, and you know the reason why it will not react with benzaldehyde and its aromatic derivatives, as discussed in Fehling solution. Okay, now this is your Pallet's reaction. Okay, see here that aldehyde oxidized to corresponding carboxylate ion and copper plus 2 is reduced to copper plus 1, that is giving brown precipitate. Okay, from blue color complex you are getting red brown precipitate. So now moving on to reduction, sorry, oxidation using mercuric chloride, that is HgCl2. Okay, so HgCl2 is corrosive sublimate. It is reduced by aldehyde to give white precipitate of mercurous chloride, also known as calomel. Okay, see here MEL, here it is a spelling mistake is there, here it will be MEL. Okay, calomel. So it is reduced by aldehyde. You see here that you take one aldehyde, okay, treat it with mercuric chloride, but we will get white precipitate of mercurous chloride. So this one is your white precipitate of mercurous chloride. Okay, and further you are getting this aldehyde to acid. Okay, and now this mercurous chloride further react with aldehyde to give black precipitate of metallic mercury. Okay, so this mercurous chloride, it will further react with another molecule of aldehyde. See here, this mercurous chloride, okay, that is calomel. The calomel thus formed will react with another molecule of aldehyde to give you another molecule of corresponding carboxylic acid. Okay, so how mercury is changing? So from mercury plus 2 oxidation state to +1 oxidation state, and from here we are getting, from one molecule of aldehyde we are getting one molecule of acid. Then mercury plus 1 is being further reduced to mercury plus 2, and from here another molecule of aldehyde is further oxidized to another molecule of corresponding acid. Okay, here now ketones do not give this reaction. See here, this ketone, okay, you treat it with mercury chloride, no reaction. That is, ketone, treat it with mercury chloride and you will end up with a negative result. Okay, that is, ketones do not give this reaction. Now this reaction, this haloform reaction, is very important for your entrance exam, as well as that Tollens, Fehling and Benedict's was important for your entrance. This Tollens, Fehling, question comes from this Tollens reagent, Fehling's reagent. Okay, from in the entrance exam as well as in your board exam also. Okay, and similarly this haloform reaction. Okay, this is also very important for your board as well as your entrance exams. So aldehydes and ketones having at least one methyl group, okay, having at least one methyl group linked to the carbonyl carbon atom, acetaldehyde and methyl ketones. Okay, acetaldehyde and methyl ketones. So aldehydes and ketones having at least one methyl group linked to carbonyl carbon atom are easily oxidized by sodium hypohalite solution. And how it is derived? Sodium hypohalite solution, you take any halogen in presence of dilute sodium hydroxide. Okay, so it is oxidized by sodium hypohalite solution to sodium salts of corresponding carboxylic acid having one carbon atom less than that of the carbonyl compound. Here one carbon atom less than that of carbonyl compound, and you are getting a haloform derived from the methyl group. Okay, this is known as haloform reaction. This haloform may be chloroform if you use chlorine, it may be bromoform if you use bromine, or it may be iodoform if you use iodine. Okay, so what are the changes occurring here? That what are the things? Okay, excuse me. So the compound must contain one methyl group linked to the carbonyl carbon. Okay, and it will get oxidized in presence of sodium hypohalite solution to the sodium salts of corresponding carboxylic acid having one carbon atom less than that of the carbonyl compound, and you will get extra one haloform compound. Okay, so this is known as haloform reaction. So you can see here that this one is the CH3 group, okay, linked to the carbonyl carbon. That means you have to have alpha CH3 group, okay, or you can say that you should have ketomethyl group. Ketomethyl, okay. See, this one is keto, this one is methyl, okay. You can remember in both way, that is ketomethyl group or alpha CH3 group adjacent, sorry, or alpha C, you can you can remember it as alpha methyl group, okay. Alpha methyl group must be present or ketomethyl group. So this kind of molecules undergo oxidation reaction with sodium hypohalite to give corresponding acid and a haloform. So from where this haloform is coming? This haloform is coming from this alpha methyl group. Okay, if you break this one, this alpha methyl group will give you the haloform. Okay, it may be chloroform, bromoform, or iodoform. See here that how this reaction is taking place. This is your acetaldehyde. So how your hypohalite solution you are getting is that you give chlorine, bromine, or iodine in presence of dilute NaOH. Okay, so you are getting here chlorine is present. This hydrogens is being replaced by chloride. Okay, see here that, and then this one you treat it with sodium hydroxide. You are getting chloroform and corresponding, sorry, not corresponding carboxylic acid, but one carbon atom less. Okay, similarly you see here acetone contains COCH3 group, that is ketomethyl group. Okay, you give bromine, this CH3 will be replaced by CBr3. Since it is a symmetrical ketone, you can remove either way. Okay, now this will undergo reaction with sodium hydroxide to give you bromoform and the corresponding carboxylic acid having one carbon atom less. Okay, now this oxidation does not affect carbon carbon double bond. See here, this unsaturation remains intact. Okay, this is not oxidized, means, yeah, this double bond is not converted to single bond or so. Okay, so this oxidation does not affect the unsaturation present in a molecule. So now you see this mechanism, okay, how you are getting. So this mechanism proceeds. So this hydroxy, okay, this hydroxy will take up alpha protons. Now you see here that, okay, this carbon is positively charged, okay, and this oxygen is negative. Okay, you just remember this one. The carbonyl carbon is positive and the oxygen is negative. Why is it negative? Because oxygen have more electronegativity than carbon. So this carbon is being positive, so now it will attract the bonded pair of electrons between this carbon and the alpha carbon towards itself. So as a result, this alpha carbon will develop a small positive charge. Okay, now as a result, this carbon atom will pull the bonded pair of electrons between hydrogen atom and itself towards itself. Okay, see here that, uh, let me use another marker. Okay, see, this carbonyl carbon is positive charge, so it will pull electron towards itself. Okay, leaving this carbon, alpha carbon, a small positive charge. Okay, now to balance this small positive charge, it will pull the electrons from hydrogen atom towards itself. So these hydrogen atoms will also develop a small del del plus positive charge. Okay, that means this proton means this hydrogens in the present in the alpha, sorry, this hydrogens, okay, present in the alpha carbon is acidic. Acidic in the sense means they are developing a positive charge. Okay, so they will leave as protons. Okay, so they are acidic. Now you see here that this one, okay, this alpha carbon develops a positive charge and it will make this proton, alpha protons. Okay, here there are three alpha protons, so it will make the alpha protons acidic. Okay, acidic because these protons are developing a partial positive charge. So that means these protons develops a partial acidic character. So what is acid? Acid are those compounds which give us protons, that is H plus. So this compound can give us H plus because of this alpha carbon being positive. Okay, so these three hydrogen atoms are acidic in nature. So this OH minus will take this proton, this bond will shift over alpha carbon and carbonyl carbon, and the pi bonds will shift over oxygen. So you will get, this is what, nothing but a enolate. Okay, that is enol form. Okay, also known as enolate. Okay, so this negative charge backfires and this double bond will take bromine. Okay, from Br2 it is taking bromine and it is leaving another nucleophile Br minus. Okay, just an SN2 type reaction. So you are getting with this. Similarly, now these two hydrogen atoms, okay, these two hydrogen atoms are also acidic. So these two hydrogen atoms will also get substituted by bromine in a similar fashion. Okay, OH will take this proton, this will go over here and pi bond will shift over oxygen, then another attack of this enol to the bromine will give you this compound. Note here, two bromine molecules are being two hydrogen atoms are being replaced by two bromine molecules. Similarly, the third proton will be taken up by this hydroxy group. Similarly, enol will form and finally you will get a substance, or you will get a compound in which all the alpha hydrogen atoms are being replaced by bromine molecule. Okay, now what will happen is that since all the protons of this uh, since all the hydrogen alpha hydrogen atoms are being removed by hydroxy group, now what is left? So this carbonyl is left. So now this hydroxy will go and attack at the electrophilic carbon. See here, negative charge, electrophilic carbon, positive charge. So opposite attracts each other. So it will go and attack, and this pi orbital, this pi bond will go over oxygen as negative charge. So you will get this one. So oxygen will backfire its negatively charged electrons and this group will leave, just an SN2 type substitution. Okay, so you are getting this one acid and this tribromocarbanion. Okay, now this tribromocarbanion has a negative charge, it will take the proton, okay, to become bromoform. Since this one is an acid, so it will readily give its proton. So this carbon ion is taking up that proton. So this acid is being converted to the carboxylate anion, and this carbon ion is being converted to its bromoform. Okay, now acidic workup will give you this acid and bromoform. Okay, so you see that here what is the main thing, is what is main thing happening, that COCH3, okay, ketomethyl group, or that alpha methyl to the carbonyl group. So from here you can see in this mechanism, that is in this portion you can see that this CBr3, okay, that means if we see in the original compound, this is the CH3 molecule, so this is getting cleaved. This C and C bond, this carbonyl carbon and alpha carbon bond is getting cleaved, so you are getting cleaved. So this one, this fragment, that is the carbonyl part, is being oxidized to acid, and this methyl group, always methyl, okay, this methyl group is being converted to HCbr3, that is bromoform. So you will get always this H, means HCX3. Okay, you will always get this compound because of this methyl group. Okay, since this ketomethyl group is a necessary condition, so you will always get this HCX3, and X is a halogen. It can be bromo, it can be iodo, or it can be chloro. Okay, so haloform reaction can also be used to distinguish methyl ketones, that is CH3CO, from other type of ketones. Okay, those do not contain CH3CO group. So as for example, you can see here that pentan 2-on, it contains the ketomethyl group. Okay, fine. So the breakage will be this one from here. So this portion will form the acid part, and this methyl portion will form iodoform, since iodine is present here. Okay, see here, now this pentan 3-on, an isomer of pentan 2-on. Okay, these are two isomers, pentan 2-on and pentan 3-on, these are two isomers. So if you do reaction with pentan 3-on, no precipitate is formed. This iodoform, that is the haloform, are precipitates. Okay, so you can easily tell by looking at it. This one is yellow color, yellow precipitate. Okay, so pentan 3-on do not have any ketomethyl group or methyl ketones, so it will not undergo this haloform reaction. Okay, similarly you see here that this reaction, okay, since it contains a ketomethyl group, so here ketomethyl group is present. Okay, what you do is just click this one. This part is the acid portion and this part will be the iodoform. So this part is the iodoform and this part is the acid portion. Okay, so see here that due to the formation of yellow precipitate of iodoform, it is also known as iodoform test. Okay, this one is also known as iodoform test, and you will be doing this in your lab practicals. Okay, so note here that certain alcohols, you note this point. Okay, certain alcohols, that is ethyl alcohol or secondary alcohol, which can be converted to acetaldehyde or methyl ketones, undergo under conditions used for the test also gives a positive iodoform test. Okay, if the alcohols See here, this one is the secondary alcohol. If this gets converted to this group in the conditions mentioned for the test, then it will give a positive iodoform test. Okay, that is, you can see here that ethyl alcohol. Okay, ethyl alcohol means this one is ethyl alcohol. It may be it oxidizes to this one. Okay, since it contains this acid, ethyl alcohol oxidizes to acetaldehyde. Okay, since it contains ketomethyl group or methyl ketones, or you can say alpha methyl to the carbonyl carbon to the carbonyl carbon, so it will give us positive iodoform test. Or any secondary alcohol, since this contains this fragment which can be oxidized to this ketomethyl group. Okay, secondary alcohols or ethyl alcohol. So these are the two functional groups. These two functional groups can give positive iodoform test. Gives positive iodoform test. Okay, now Baeyer-Villiger reaction rearrangement. Baeyer-Villiger oxidation is the oxidative cleavage of carbon-carbon bond adjacent to a carbonyl, which converts ketones to ester and cyclic ketones to lactose. Okay, it is the oxidative cleavage of a carbon-carbon bond adjacent to carbonyl. So what do you mean by oxidative cleavage? Suppose this is a carbon-carbon. Okay, here 0 0 oxidation state. If you cleave this one and you get here increase in oxidation. Okay, C plus 1 and C plus 1, that is, cleavage of carbon carbon bond is occurring along with the increase in oxidation state. See here, this bonds cleaves. Okay, and the oxidation state of carbon is increased to plus 1. Both the carbons are increased to plus 1. Then this type of cleavage is known as oxidative cleavage. Means cleavage is also occurring along with the increase in oxidation state, that is, along with oxidation. Okay, cleavage along with oxidation, that is known as oxidative cleavage. So the Baeyer-Villiger can be carried out with per acids such as MCPBA, metachloroperbenzoic acid, or with hydrogen peroxide. Substituents which are able to stabilize a positive charge migrate more readily, so that the order of preference is tert, alkyl, cyclohexyl, secondary alkyl, phenyl, primary alkyl, then CH3. Okay. So see here that what is the reaction? So this one is the ketone. Okay. So oxidative cleavage of a carbon-carbon bond adjacent to carbonyl. So here you are getting two alkyl group, carbon-carbon bond. Okay, adjacent to carbonyl. That is, there will be a cleavage between this alpha carbon on the right hand side or alpha carbon towards the left hand side. So you have to decide. Okay, and what you will get is ketones to ester. You just cleave this one, and means you have to insert just see here, you have to decide which bond will get cleaved. You just simply insert one oxygen atom to it. Okay, suppose here this bond gets cleaved. Okay, that means you just put one oxygen atom to it. Okay, so see here that this alkyl group previously was in zero oxidation state, and now because of this oxygen it is in plus oxidation, plus one oxidation state. Okay, similarly carbonyl group previously was in carbonyl group. This oxygen state is also increased because by plus 1 because of this oxygen atom. Okay, previously plus 2 this carbonyl, now it is plus 3. Okay, see here that this cleavage is occurring along with the oxidations. From plus 2 you are getting plus 3, from 0 to you are getting plus 1. Okay, and this is the per acid. See here, 3 oxygen atom present. If 3 oxygen atom is present in an acid, it is known as per acid. Okay, per acid. Now this 3 oxygen atom now becomes 2 oxygen atom. That is, 1 oxygen atoms goes and insert in between the alpha carbon and the carbonyl group. Okay, now you have to see here where this where this oxygen atom will get insert. Okay, so this is the trend: third alkyl, cyclohexyl, secondary alkyl, phenyl, primary alkyl, CH3. So now you see here this is the methyl group, this one is cyclo group. Okay, see here, methyl has the least priority and cyclohexyl or cycloalkyl is at the second priority. So cyclohexyl will get cleaved. That means you insert one oxygen atom here, so you are getting oxygen atom here in cyclopentyl one. Okay, now you see here that this is a benzene ring, that is phenyl, and this is CH3, that is methyl. So this group gets priority over methyl, so oxygen will insert in this bond, means you insert oxygen here. Okay, see, oxygen here. Now you see here that this group, okay, this is the carbonyl group, this is in the ring. So previously we are dealing with normal ketones. Okay, so normal ketones we are getting esters. See here, this one is ester and this one is also ester. Okay, but now we will be dealing with cyclic ketones. Okay, and cyclic ketones always give lactones. So cyclic ketones, you see here that this is the cyclic ketone. Okay, now this cyclic ketone has two alpha groups. Okay, this one is one alpha group and this one is another alpha group. Okay, now the alpha group in the top is secondary alkyl. See, secondary alkyl, because it is coordinated with two carbon atoms, whereas alpha group at the bottom is tertiary, this third alkyl. Okay, as it is bonded to 3 carbon atoms. So third alkyl group gets priority over secondary alkyl group, so oxygen will be inserted in the third alkyl group. Okay, between the third alkyl carbon and the carbonyl carbon, oxygen will get inserted. Okay, now see here this one example, cyclopentanol. In this portion, in this compound, both the groups are same, that is, this is a symmetrical ketone. If you draw a mirror plane, you will get LHS equals to RHS. Okay, that is LHS equals to RHS here. So you can insert oxygen in either of the bonds. Okay, you will get the same product. So what is Baeyer-Villiger rearrangement? It is the oxidative cleavage of carbon-carbon bond adjacent to carbonyl, which converts ketones to carboxylic ester. Okay, and cyclic ketones to lactones. And what it does to the reagent here is per acids. Okay, per acid is the reagent. What it does to the reagents, that is peroxy acid or per acids are reduced to carboxylic acid. Okay, here C 3 oxygen atom then hydrogen atom is reduced to C 2 oxygen atom and 1 hydrogen atom. See, ketone oxidized to carboxylic acid, that means oxidation, and peroxy acid or per acid is being reduced to carboxylic acid. So what is reduction? Removal of oxygen. So one oxygen get removes, it is being reduced. And what is oxidation? Gaining of oxygen atom. Okay, so ketone gains one oxygen atom and becomes carboxylic acid. Okay, so now you see here the mechanism. So this one is the ketone. Okay, it takes the proton from per acid. See here that 3 oxygen atom is present. Okay, so it takes the proton from the per acid, and this leaves the bonded pair of electron towards this oxygen atom as a lone pair of electron. You can see here from that. Okay, now this ketonic carbonyl is being activated via protonation. So now this will go and react. See, negative charge, and this carbonyl is electrophilic in nature, so this negative charge will go over here and attack to this carbon atom. As a result, to maintain the tetravalency, this double bond will open up to oxygen atom, neutralizing its positive charge. Okay, so this will, you get the product. Now what happens is that these hydrogen atoms backfire, this oxygen and this bond between hydrogen atom and oxygen atom backfires, and one of the alkyl group, okay, migrates to this oxygen atom. Okay, one of the alkyl group will migrate to this oxygen atom. Just let me give another color. Yeah, to this blue color circle. Okay, one of the alkyl groups, it may be R2 or R3, and this is this preference, uh, and which group will be migrated. Okay, that means which group, this R2 or R3, this R2 group or R3 group will migrate to this oxygen atom will be decided by this trend. Okay, that is, if tertiary alkyl group is present, it will migrate to the oxygen atom, and this methyl group will have the least preference for migration. Okay, so that preference depends on that following trend. Excuse me. So this one migrates over the oxygen atom, and this fragments leaves. Okay, so now it takes the proton, and thus carboxylic acid is, this per acid is converted to carboxylic acid, and after this migration, this portion is converted to ester. Okay, so here ester. So this is the mechanism. I hope you understood this mechanism. It's nothing but, first you have to take one proton from the per acid, then the anion will attack the carbonyl carbon, then this OH bond will get cleaved, and one of the alkyl group will migrate, and the trend follows this one, and then this acid group leaves. You will get carboxylic acid, and you will get one ester from ketone. Okay, so now I will end here. In the next lecture I'll be telling about the reduction part. Yeah, I will be telling about the reduction part. I thought that I will finish oxidation and reduction portion in this video lecture, but it has taken a very long time, so I will discuss the reduction, because reduction part is also long, a bit long, so it will not be, I cannot discuss in this lecture. I will be discussing in the next lecture. Okay, so if you have any queries, then please do let me know. Okay, thank you.